My business partner stole our clients and said, "You'll never recover." She was wrong. What Marcus is trying to say is that Veronica Palmer Architects will be taking over the project from here on out. Those words hung in the conference room like toxic smoke. I stared at my business partner of 5 years, Veronica, trying to process what was happening. Her confident smile, her impeccable blazer, the open folder of documents in front of her, everything carefully orchestrated. For this moment, Marcus Wilson, our most important client, avoided my gaze. The unfamiliar lawyer sitting next to him adjusted his tie, clearly uncomfortable. "Are you kicking me out of our project?" I managed to ask, my voice calmer than I felt. "No, Camilla. I'm breaking away." Veronica slid an envelope toward me. "Foster and Palmer Architects no longer exists. I've already spoken to our key clients. They're coming with me." When I protested, mentioning our history, our contracts, she only widened her smile. "Business is business. You should have paid more attention to the contracts instead of getting lost in your drawings." As she left the room, she leaned in and whispered, "You'll never recover from this. This industry is all about who you know, and now they all know me." What she didn't know was that this moment, which was supposed to be my downfall, would only be the painful beginning of something far greater. Veronica and I met in architecture school. We were almost complementary opposites. I spent nights developing innovative and sustainable concepts, while she thrived in presentations and networking. My talent for design combined with her social charm made us an unbeatable duo in collaborative projects. After graduation, we went our separate ways. I specialized in sustainable design, while she focused on high-end commercial architecture. Our paths crossed at industry events, where we always renewed our promise. One day, we'll have our own firm. That day came when we turned 30. I had just gained recognition for an energy-efficient public library project. Veronica had cultivated an impressive network of corporate contacts. The timing seemed perfect. Foster and Palmer Architects was born in a small office downtown. I led the creative and technical side, developing projects that balanced aesthetics, functionality, and environmental responsibility. Veronica managed client relations, marketing, and the business side of things. The first 3 years saw steady growth. We started with small commercial projects and a few luxury homes, but soon we attracted bigger clients. Our reputation for modern and sustainable designs spread, especially after we won a regional award for an innovative community center that reduced energy consumption by 60%. "We're just getting started," Veronica often said during our celebrations. "Imagine where we'll be in 5 years." Our biggest victory came when Marcus Wilson, a major real estate developer, chose us to design his new sustainable corporate complex, a $50 million project that would put our firm on the map. "It's perfect for us," I argued excitedly during our internal meeting. "We can implement all the sustainable innovations we've been developing, but on a significant scale. And the prestige will open doors to even bigger clients." Veronica added, always focused on strategic growth. It was in these small differences in perspective that the first signs of trouble began to appear. While I was thrilled about the creative and environmental possibilities, Veronica seemed increasingly interested in the status and connections that each project provided. "We need to be strategic, Camilla," she often said. "Your idealism is adorable, but we're building an empire here." Gradually, Veronica started making decisions without consulting me, altering project details to accommodate client requests that compromised my original vision, renegotiating deadlines without checking my capacity to meet them, prioritizing clients based on their status rather than the quality of the proposed projects. "Trust me," was her response whenever I questioned these choices. "I know how to navigate this world." And I did trust her. After all, our company was growing, our reputation was solidifying, and the Wilson project was going to be our joint masterpiece. I ignored my intuition and the small warning signs, focusing on what we did best, creating spaces that transformed lives and respected the planet. What I didn't know was that while I was designing our shared future, Veronica was silently planning her own, without me. The first changes were so subtle that I barely noticed them. Important meetings rescheduled without my input. Contract documents missing from my review folders. Employees looking uneasy when I walked into certain rooms. Marcus requested to deal exclusively with me in the next stages. Veronica explained when I asked why I was being excluded from some communications about the Wilson project. He appreciates your creativity, but he prefers more objective discussions about implementation. I accepted the explanation, although something didn't feel right. I was completely immersed in the Wilson project, working 14-hour days to create a truly revolutionary design. This would be a milestone in sustainable corporate architecture, not just visually striking, but fundamentally different in its functionality. You worry too much about the technical details, Veronica commented when she found me reviewing energy efficiency calculations late at night. That's why we have engineers. Technical details are what turn a beautiful concept into a truly sustainable building, I replied, not realizing that her concern wasn't about the project itself, but about the time I was devoting to it. After 3 months of intense work, the day finally arrived to present my final designs to Marcus. I arrived at his office 30 minutes early, carrying both physical and digital models of the complex. I was nervous but confident. I had created something truly special. When I entered the conference room, I found not just Marcus but also Veronica and a lawyer I had never seen before. The atmosphere was strange, tense. Their expressions were serious, avoiding direct eye contact with me. "Camilla," Marcus began uncomfortably, "there's been a change of plans." That's when Veronica made her announcement about Veronica Palmer Architects taking over the project. As I struggled to process what was happening, she calmly explained that she had registered a new company 3 months earlier. For weeks, she had been secretly contacting our key clients, persuading them to transfer their contracts. She had recruited 7 of our 11 employees for her new firm. Even more devastating, I discovered that our partnership had been structured in a way that gave her control over our shared bank accounts. Everything was perfectly legal, hidden within the technical language of contracts I had trusted her to manage. "I was always the one bringing in clients and keeping this business running," she declared coldly. "Your designs are good, Camilla, but in this industry, relationships are what really matter, and the relationships are mine." Marcus finally spoke, clearly uncomfortable but resolute. "We appreciate your initial creative work, Camilla, but the continuity of the project requires stability. Veronica has assured us that her team can deliver on time and within budget." The words sounded distant, as if they were coming from another room. I looked at the models I had brought, weeks of work, innovative ideas, solutions that would redefine the concept of sustainable corporate buildings, all now irrelevant. "You can't just take my work," I argued, my voice trembling slightly. "Technically, it's Foster and Palmer's work," the lawyer interjected, "and according to the contract, the new structure proposed by Ms. Palmer is within legal parameters to assume these assets." Veronica slid an envelope toward me containing documents for the dissolution of our partnership. Everything had already been prepared. The division of assets, heavily favoring her, non-compete agreements, confidentiality clauses. "Don't worry, I left something for you to start over," she commented with false generosity. "Consider it a thank you for the years of partnership." As I stood up to leave, feeling utterly betrayed and manipulated, she uttered the words that would mark the lowest point of my career. "You'll never recover from this. This industry is built on who you know, and now they all know me." With my models under my arm and the weight of humiliation on my shoulders, I walked out of that office feeling like my career had ended before it had truly begun. The following weeks were a devastating whirlwind. Every day brought a new discovery about the extent of Veronica's betrayal. Of our 15 major clients, 12 followed her, including all the largest and most prestigious projects. Only 3 small clients remained, more out of personal loyalty to me than actual need for my services. "I don't understand how she convinced so many people so quickly," I said to my brother Ryan, a lawyer, who had immediately stepped in to protect what was left of my assets. "She had been planning this for almost a year," he explained after reviewing the documents and reaching out to some sources. "Cultivating exclusive relationships, subtly undermining your credibility, positioning herself as the true force behind the company's success. Financially, the situation was alarming. Although Ryan had managed to obtain a court order preventing Veronica from completely draining our shared accounts, she had skillfully transferred most of the liquid assets before making her final move. The office, naively leased under her personal name, had to be vacated within 30 days. The employees who remained, 2 junior designers and a receptionist, seemed more lost than I was. "What do we do now?" one of them asked, visibly worried about her future. "I don't know yet," I replied honestly. "But we'll figure it out together." The psychological blow was perhaps the hardest. In the small world of local commercial architecture, news traveled fast. Soon, rumors began circulating. Some suggested I was difficult to work with. Brilliant, but impossible with deadlines and realistic expectations. Others insinuated that I couldn't deliver on promises made to clients. The most painful ones claimed that the designs I had been praised for were largely developed by Veronica and her strategic vision. "Don't listen to that," Ryan advised. "It's part of her strategy, to destroy your reputation so clients won't even consider coming back to you." But how could I not listen when the phone stopped ringing? When former contacts were suddenly too busy to take my calls? When a potential new client canceled our meeting after hearing some concerning things about my reliability? One particularly difficult afternoon, after signing the papers to vacate the office, I walked to the Riverside Community Center, one of our first major projects together. I sat in the garden I had carefully designed, filled with native plants, that required minimal irrigation, creating a microclimate that lowered the ambient temperature on hot days. It was there, among the blooming shrubs and the gentle sound of recycled water trickling through the small central fountain, that I seriously considered giving up. Maybe Veronica was right. Maybe in this industry, talent and integrity were secondary to connections and manipulation. "It's an impressive space." A voice interrupted my thoughts. It was David Chen, owner of a mid-sized construction company and a former client of our firm. We had designed the renovation of his office 2 years earlier. "David, hi, thank you," I replied, trying to mask my emotional state. He sat down on the bench beside me, gazing thoughtfully at the garden. "I heard about what happened with your partnership, a terrible situation." "That's a polite way to put it," I responded with a bitter laugh. "You know what I admire most about this garden?" he asked, seemingly changing the subject. "The way it looks simple, yet there are layers of complexity working beneath the surface. The subtle slope for natural drainage, the strategic grouping of plants that complement each other's needs. Details most people will never notice, but they make all the difference in functionality." I looked at him, surprised by his precise observation. "Veronica took the contacts, but she can't take your talent, your vision, or your integrity," he continued, now looking directly at me. "And in this industry, in the long run, those qualities matter far more than political games." His words stayed with me as I walked back to my apartment. For the first time since the betrayal, a small flame of determination began to ignite. In the weeks that followed, I conducted an honest audit of my mistakes. I had trusted blindly without verifying. I had neglected the business side while focusing solely on the creative. I had allowed Veronica to control all client relationships, effectively giving her the power to cut me off from them. "You're not the first exceptionally creative person to be deceived by someone with manipulative social skills," Ryan remarked as he helped me sort out my legal situation. "But this can be the last time it happens to you." I rented a small workstation in a co-working space in a more affordable part of the city. The financial reality was tough. I had enough savings for approximately 6 months before I'd have to seriously consider changing careers. I started with the basics. I created a simple yet elegant website showcasing my previous projects, carefully documenting which elements were solely mine. Ryan used his legal expertise to ensure that I retained rights over my own designs, something our partnership contract had fortunately made clear. "I think you should sue Veronica for more compensation," he insisted after reviewing all the documents. "And drag this out for years, spending what little money I have on legal fees?" I questioned. I'd rather use my energy to rebuild. 3 weeks after starting my fresh start, I received an unexpected email from Sofia Rodriguez, a talented, young architect who had worked at our firm for only 6 months. She was among the employees Veronica had tried to recruit. I turned down her offer, Sofia wrote. I got into architecture to create spaces that positively impact people's lives and the planet. It was your vision that inspired me, not the connections or the prestige. If you're rebuilding, I'd like to be part of it. Her message sparked deep reflection. What exactly did I want to rebuild? A smaller version of Foster & Palmer, competing for the same corporate clients and prestigious projects that Veronica now dominated? Or something fundamentally different? I scheduled a coffee meeting with David Chen to discuss possible collaborations. His perspective as a builder brought clarity. The market is saturated with firms competing for the same high-profile corporate clients, he observed. But there's a growing demand for architecture that genuinely prioritizes social impact and real environmental sustainability, not just as marketing, but as a core principle. That conversation was a turning point. For years, I had compromised aspects of my original vision to accommodate the more commercial direction Veronica favored. Now, free from that influence, I could reconnect with the core values that had led me to architecture in the first place. David mentioned a contact who might be interested in my approach. Grace Mitchell, a real estate investor known for urban revitalization projects that benefited existing communities, rather than displacing them. She's looking for an architect for a challenging project, David explained, transforming an abandoned factory into a mixed-use complex that would include affordable housing, spaces for local entrepreneurs, and community areas. The budget is modest, but the creative freedom is total. A week later, I met Grace at her unassuming office. At 52, she exuded a quiet confidence born from decades of challenging industry conventions. Most architects I've met want to impose their aesthetic vision without understanding the real needs of the community, she explained after describing the project. I need someone who knows how to listen, to both the space and the people who will use it. Her approach deeply resonated with my fundamental philosophy of architecture, something I had often had to compromise in my former partnership. Instead of promising immediate results, I proposed a different process. Before designing anything, I'd like to spend 2 weeks getting to know the community, understanding how people use space, identifying specific needs, and learning about local aspirations. The design should emerge organically from that understanding. Grace smiled, visibly intrigued. You have 2 weeks. With Sofia as my sole collaborator, we dove headfirst into the project. We interviewed future users of the space, from families seeking affordable housing to small local entrepreneurs. We mapped foot traffic patterns, natural light, and prevailing winds. We studied the building's industrial history to honor its legacy while transforming it. The result was a radically different concept from anything I would have created at my old firm. Less focused on grand architectural statements, more attuned to how spaces shaped human interactions and fostered community well-being. When we finally presented our proposal to Grace and her committee, the response exceeded all expectations. This is not just a design, Grace commented, moved after our presentation. It's a statement of values and possibilities. We had bet everything on a radically different approach, and it worked. The factory project, which we named Phoenix Commons, marked the true beginning of the new Camilla Foster Architects. With a signed contract and a modest advance, I was able to rent a small office of my own and officially hire Sofia. We developed a methodology I called responsive architecture, an approach where future occupants and community members were actively involved in the design process. This collaborative approach became our signature. Most architects present a finished design and ask for approval, I explained during our weekly community meetings. We are building the design with you, iteratively. The process was more labor-intensive, but the results exceeded expectations. Every design decision had purpose and meaning for the people who would use the space. David Chen, now a frequent collaborator, brought his construction expertise to ensure our innovative ideas were feasible within the limited budget. Our team grew organically. We hired an energy efficiency specialist, a landscape architect focused on native plants, and an interior designer with expertise in sustainable materials. The team remained small, but it was united by shared values. As Phoenix Commons progressed, word about our approach began to circulate in specialized circles. We received invitations to speak at small conferences on community-based architecture and sustainability. A local newspaper featured an article on our collaborative process, highlighting how it differed from traditional methods. At the same time, we watched from a distance as Veronica Palmer Architects expanded rapidly, taking on prestigious projects and opening an impressive office in the financial district. Her name frequently appeared in architecture publications, always associated with high-profile commercial projects. One of those projects, ironically, the luxury skyscraper that had originally been designated for our partnership, began facing serious issues. Without my technical oversight, Veronica had approved design changes that compromised structural and sustainability aspects. The resulting scandal, though temporary, tarnished her reputation for flawless efficiency. I never commented publicly on these developments. My focus remained on building something new, not on feeding old resentments. When Phoenix Commons was finally inaugurated, the impact was immediate. The mixed-use complex, with its innovative design that honored the building's industrial history, while creating deeply human spaces, received significant recognition. We won a prestigious regional award for sustainable design, particularly highlighting our collaborative methodology. Grace, impressed by the results, hired us for 2 additional projects. Other clients aligned with our philosophy began seeking us out. We discovered that there was a significant niche of people and organizations looking for exactly the kind of approach we offered. Approximately 18 months after Veronica's betrayal, I received an unexpected message from Marcus Wilson, requesting a meeting. "I made a mistake following Veronica," he admitted when we met in his office. "I was seduced by promises and connections, but now I see that substance is more important than spectacle." Marcus had acquired a large abandoned lot to create an innovation, a campus that would house startups focused on sustainable technologies. The project would be 3 times larger than Phoenix Commons. "I want it to be revolutionary not just visually but functionally," he explained. "A space that truly embodies the values of the companies that will occupy it." During our initial meeting, he casually mentioned, "Veronica Palmer is also on the shortlist. She's been pushing hard to get at least part of the project." 2 years earlier, this information would have deeply unsettled me. Now, I felt only a calm confidence. "You should consider all qualified candidates," I replied. "I'm confident that our work and approach will speak for themselves." Over the next month, our team, now 12 talented individuals, worked intensively on the proposal for Marcus's Innovation District. We applied everything we had learned and refined from previous projects, but expanded it to a much larger scale. Instead of competing with other firms in visual grandeur, we focused on how the campus could function as a living ecosystem, integrating sustainable technologies not just as design features, but as visible educational elements that would inspire innovation. "We want the campus itself to be a tool for learning and experimentation," I explained during our final presentation. "A living laboratory where companies can test and develop new solutions." After all the firms finished their presentations, Marcus organized a meeting with his board of investors to announce his decision. To my surprise, Veronica was present, apparently confident in her victory, impeccably dressed, and surrounded by assistants. Our eyes met briefly before the meeting. Her smile was polite but distant, as if I were just another minor competitor, not someone whose business she had deliberately destroyed. When Marcus announced that Camilla Foster Architects had been selected to lead the entire project, Veronica's expression froze for a moment. The surprise in her eyes was quickly masked by her professional smile, but the impact was undeniable. During the cocktail reception after the formal announcement, she approached me, a champagne glass in hand. "Impressive," she said, her tone blending genuine surprise with subtle condescension. "Who would have thought you'd manage to get back on your feet after that? Must have been a stroke of luck." "It wasn't luck, Veronica," I responded calmly. "It was a deliberate choice to create something different and better. You took our clients and contacts, but you couldn't take my vision or integrity. In the end, those were the qualities that made the difference." She laughed, but the sound lacked her usual charm. "This industry will always value connections and pragmatism over idealism. You've won a battle, not the war." Maybe you're right, I replied, glancing at Marcus, who was animatedly discussing innovative aspects of our proposal with Sophia. But I've realized we're not even fighting the same war. While you're building an empire, I'm building a legacy, and that makes all the difference. The next day, as I stepped into our office, a bright, collaborative space filled with plants, natural light, and flexible work areas, I reflected on the journey of the past 2 years. Veronica's betrayal, which had initially seemed like a devastating end, had actually been a crucial beginning. Forced to rebuild, I was able to create something far more aligned with my values and vision than would have ever been possible in the old partnership. Our projects were now making a real difference, not just for clients, but for entire communities. Our methodology was influencing other professionals, and our firm, though smaller than Veronica's, had a purpose and impact that transcended traditional success metrics. Marcus's new project, which we named Nexus, would be our most ambitious work yet. More importantly, it would be built on the principles that now defined our firm: authentic collaboration, genuine sustainability, and the belief that architecture can and should be a positive force for social transformation. When my former partner stole our clients and smiled as she said, "You'll never recover," she was operating with a very narrow definition of success. Her betrayal forced me not only to survive, but to completely reimagine what my work and career could be. True recovery wasn't just about reclaiming what I had lost, but about discovering a path I never would have found otherwise. Sometimes, your greatest setback can be, with the right perspective, your most significant breakthrough.